What's going on, y'all? It's Dawhveed, and before I get into the build video, I first want to thank you all so freaking much because I just hit 1K subscribers on YouTube for the first time ever. You guys are really helping me make this dream a reality, and I'm so happy to hit such a significant personal milestone. So to celebrate this amazing accomplishment, I want to give back to you guys, so I'm doing a special giveaway with multiple prize winners in my Discord channel. I'll have all of the giveaway details on how to enter and win there, so make sure to swing by and enter to win. I'll leave a link in the description as well as the pinned comment below for the Discord. Okay, back to the build. I first want to start off by saying that I made this build because I felt like the Kill-O-The-Wisp is such an amazingly cool gun, but no one has really made a standout build for it. So I decided to do so because of my love for this gun. This build isn't the highest DPS or like fastest speed clearing build, but it's probably my most fun build that I've made, and it still does incredible damage even on Mayhem 4. So without any further ado, I present you all my Stormcaller build for flak. As with all of my other builds, we'll first head on over to the skill tree to get set up, and I'll briefly go over what skills to use and other viable options. First, I like to start on the hunter tree with 5 points into interplanetary stalker because this skill just gives you all sorts of raw damage, and this build needs as much damage as you can get. Next, I like to max out both leave no trace and also head count on the next line. This is indeed a Megavore build, and these two skills synergize perfectly with Megavore, reducing our need to reload and helping us get our action skill back up and going as soon as possible. These two skills are really non-negotiable for the build, although if you are using a small magazine size gun that you find yourself reloading a lot, consider using second intention over interplanetary stalker so you can reload quicker and spend more time shooting and less time reloading. On line 3, I like to max out Two Fang because this skill simply helps increase our DPS by increasing our projectile count. Next, I like to max out the Most Dangerous Game because it gives a huge gun and crit damage buff for an extremely long period of time, and also max out Big Game, which increases our uptime and effectiveness of our hunter skills, such as Interplanetary Stalker and the Most Dangerous Game. Next, I put the 1 point into my favorite skill in the game, Galactic Shadow, because I'm a solo player and this skill is so good for soloing things as flak. It makes the enemies less likely to target you and also gives you a 15% crit damage buff on top of that for a single point. I won't drone on about this skill for too long, but it is crazy efficient for 1 point and really takes a load off of things when trying to stay alive, especially when on the higher Mayhem levels. To get down to our capstone, I like to put 2 points into Grim Harvest for the tiny bit of extra gun damage it gives, but you can also put 2 points like anywhere else in this tree, like Hunter's Eye for the situational bonuses. Doing so finally unlocks the Megavore skill to put a point into, which gives us the ability to crit anywhere on the enemies, tying this like entire tree together and increasing our damage by a ton. And now we can head on over to the Stalker tree to spend the rest of our points. First, with 5 points into Furious Attack. This skill just adds to our DPS, and it's also affected by the duration and effectiveness buff from Big Game. On line 2, I like to max out Eager to Impress, mainly because I like having my action skill cooldown reduced as low as possible for efficient runs. If you're boss fighting or just not killing the enemies fast enough for the skill to be warranted, I would just put 5 points into Self-Repairing System because it gives you a ton of bonus health and health regen. I also put 2 points into all my BFFs because sharing health regen with my pet is super important, and I'll need these 2 points later to get further into the tree. On line 3, I max out Turntail and Run because it's a very flexible skill where you can get useful stats depending on your situation. If you feel pretty safe, then stand still and fire away to get increased gun damage and fire rate, but if you're in a bad spot, keep on the move and you'll get damage reduction and increased health regen. You can also put 1 point into Lick the Wounds here if you fear going down during a run, instead of just putting the 2 points into all my BFFs. Next, I like to max out the Fast and the Furious because this gives another big gun damage buff as long as I'm above half health, which is almost all the time. The rest of my points go into Hidden Machine, which is another damage buff that gets procced when the enemies are targeting someone that is not me, which should be the case most of the time. Now that all of our skill points are allotted, I'll go over the action skill, augments, and pet options. First, this is a fadeaway build, since fadeaway not only helps us proc our anointments with ease, but it also synergizes well with our tree, and it's a very safe mechanic to keep us alive in hard Mayhem 4 content. As for the augments, I like to run Not My Circus and Unblinking Eye. Not My Circus is such a great augment because we blow through tons and tons of fadeaways, and having a pet that taunts nearby enemies to draw aggro away from us and activate Hidden Machine is magnificent. It also groups up the enemies to make it easier to hit them, and this augment combined with Galactic Shadow makes the enemies very rarely look our way. Unblinking Eye just increases our damage if we hit the same target successively, so it's not as good for mobbing as it is for bossing. I would recommend running Until You Are Dead instead if that's an issue for you, because you can never go wrong with more health regen and movement speed. Now for the pet. I love using the Spider Ant Scorcher. I just personally am fascinated with spider-like creatures. This spider-like creature just happens to give you amazing stat bonuses to health regen and, more importantly, elemental damage. If you would like more movement speed and crit damage, you should go with the Gunslinger Jabber, but if you find yourself getting down too often, try changing your pet to the Beefcake Jabber for the extra HP and movement speed, or the Countess for the damage reduction. Awesome, now that we're done with the skill tree, we can get on to the juicy part of this build, the gear. I'll be going over the essentials to the build to keep its core, as well as other viable options when I deem necessary. First, starting with the star of the show, the Kill-O-The-Wisp Legendary Shotgun by Malawan. I just recently chose this gun as part of my top 5 shotguns to use for flak. Make sure to go check out the rest of that video when you have time. Anyways, this gun is an amazing shock damage weapon, and you don't really have to aim with it because it targets nearby enemies for you once you let it go. I really love how cool this gun looks when you fire off a bunch of the orbs and they're all attacking enemies in front of you. That's kind of what inspired me to call this build the Stormcaller Flak, because it looks like I'm some sort of like lightning mage just casting spells everywhere. I have the version that shoots 1 orb only, but with 2 Fang that makes up for me lacking the ×2 shot version that always shoots out the 2 orbs. For the anointment, I use an elemental magazine one that does radiation damage, which is probably my favorite elemental magazine if you couldn't tell from my pestilent wizard video. All other elements are fine except maybe shock. This gun can be changed out to the Brainstormer if you must, if you don't have a good Kill-O-The-Wisp. But you'll just be like a way less cool looking Stormcaller, maybe like a Stormcaller's apprentice? For the shield and grenade mods, it's pretty standard, but I normally just use a transformer with a cryo elemental damage anoint and a recurring hex with a corrosive elemental damage anoint. It's important that you don't use the same element for your weapon and shield/grenade mod because they don't stack. Since I'm using radiation for my gun slot, I have to use a different one for my shield and grenade slots, and vice versa. The most important parts with these are the anointments really. The grenade barely sees any action, and the shield can be swapped out for like any shield of your choice, like a stopgap or something. Some great combinations of elemental damage anoints are the one that I'm running for this build, radiation cryo corrosive, or radiation cryo incendiary, or shock corrosive incendiary. Now moving on to the class mod. I use a friend bot with +5 in a barbaric yop and a bonus to splash damage, action skill cooldown rate, and weapon charge speed, which all benefit our Kill-O-The-Wisp shotgun for the build. This mod's ability to revive our pet once we kill an enemy is also incredibly important because our pet is our shield and taunts enemies to get them off of us, and keeping them alive is how I can stay alive for so long. If you don't have this mod, I'll throw up some other good choices on the screen that can also work in some situations, but to a lesser extent. You can use a Deadeye for the bonus damage to higher HP targets and the points in a 2 Fang that I can roll. You can use a Rack Pack for the amazing skills it rolls, either Grim Harvest, Pack Tactics, or Head Count. You can use a Stack Bot for the amazing skill it gives and the rolls into Fast and the Furious and Pack Tactics. You can use a Cosmic Stalker for the hunt skill increase and the rolls in a big game, or you can even use like a simple bounty hunter for bossing. Lastly, the artifact for this build that I use that ties in with the Stormcaller theme is the Electric Banjo. This one comes with electrocute chance and bonus shock damage, which both synergize perfectly with our build, but the bonuses don't really matter. I'm really just using this for the ability that it has to change shock damage on hit. The Kill-O-The-Wisp is a perfect match for this gun because each lightning shock that hits an enemy has a chance to proc this. And since the lightning hits so many enemies at once, the Electric Banjo procs like crazy, making you a true Stormcaller. There isn't really another artifact that can replace this one and keep the same identity for the build, but some other artifacts that you can use for your build are standard ones like Last Stand Auto Idols or like Snowdrift Victory Rushes. Now that I've covered the skills and the gear, I like to go over the general gameplay functionality of this build for mobbing and bossing, even though they are pretty much the same this time. For mobbing, you want to first activate fadeaway so you can start critting and get your anointments activated ASAP along with your pet taunting. From here, you want to get into a good position where the enemies won't be targeting you, but you can fire safely off orbs in a direct line of sight to your targets and get the most out of your Kill the Wisp. You want to aim to hit as many targets as possible with your lightning orbs so your banjo procs as much as it can and you crit as much as you can for your action skill to come back off cooldown and repeat it all over again. It's also important to note that the lightning orbs can pass through enemies if you shoot directly at them, but it will just dissipate if it hits a wall, a floor, or a ceiling. I like to aim the Kill of the Wisp either directly at enemies or just above their heads to get the most out of my shots. For bossing, the same basic principles apply, except maybe you just want to be more on the move and less dependent on your pet. Just activate fadeaway and shoot your shots while moving and try to aim your orbs in a way where they are hitting the boss as many times as possible. This is especially important when you're fighting just the boss alone and no other enemies because you won't be benefiting from the banjo DPS, so you need all the damage that you can get. That, my friends, is going to wrap it up for my Stormcaller solo flak build for Mayhem 4. If you like the build, please make sure to go rack attack that thumbs up button. It helps me out a ton and I really appreciate you for it. If you'd like to get your own Stormcaller build, head on over to my Discord channel where myself and several others can dupe you parts of it that you need, and also make sure to stick around and mingle with us because we're just awesome people, I think. If you have any questions or want to tell me anything, don't forget to drop me a comment below because I do reply to every single comment across all of my videos. If you want to see more builds and videos of mine, make sure you gamma burst that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of those. I am doing a series right now on the best guns for flak and I hope that it can help you all. That's going to be it for me for this video. Thank you for watching till the end and I'll check you all in the next video. See ya!